Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Licensing Committee hearing this morning on Monday the 4th of March. It's 10 o'clock, so we're going to start. I've just got some chairman announcements and I'll go through the procedures for everybody. Firstly, I'm Councillor Barnes. I'm the Vice Chairman of Licensing, but I will be chairing the meeting this morning. Firstly, I'd like to inform you that we are live on YouTube, so this hearing will be recorded. In order to speak, you will need to press your microphone and speak clearly into your microphone and then switch the button off when you've finished speaking. Now, I've got some announcements I want to go through. We are not expecting a fire alarm this morning, so if the fire alarm does go off, then we exit the way we came, and I believe we meet across the road at the Millers and Tap building. Mobile phone devices, please will you all make sure they are on silent or switched off during the hearing. Just to let our guests know that sometimes our councillors do use their tablets to view agendas or other documents. Now, there are resident feedback forms. If anybody would like to fill them out, they are the yellow documents over there on the table at the back of the door. Please fill them out for feedback at the end of the hearing. And lastly, if there are any declarations of interest that need to come forward in this meeting, please could you declare them now? No? We'll take that as a no. So, apologies for absence, please.
No apologies.
Thank you. And I just want to confirm that everything that's going to be discussed today is in part 1. We don't have any items in part 2. Matters that have been notified, there shouldn't be any matters that have been notified in advance or urgent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So the hearing today is the subcommittee hearing for the review of a premises licence for the Wine Cellar Company in West Drayton. Now I'm going to go through the proceedings of today. We will start with, first of all, I'd like to introduce my councillors, Councillor Allen and Councillor Stead. They'll introduce themselves shortly. We will be hearing everybody's reports and submissions in order. We will start with the licensing officer. We'll come over to yourself, the licence holder, and your representative, and then we'll go through the other responsible authorities and also the police. Now, I'd like to introduce, first of all, my legal advisor, which is Kerry Monroe here on my right, and our Democratic Services clerk, Anisha Teji, here on my left. So we will start going around the room. Please introduce yourself, and we'll start on the left with our licensing officer.
Thank you, Councillor. Good morning. My name is Lois King. I'm the licensing officer at Hillingdon Council.
Good morning. My name is Sandeep, DPS, the Wine Cellar.
Robert Jordan, representing the licence holder.
King Yip Chung, Trading Standards Officer.
Jeannie Mukherjee, Licensing Officer.
Stephanie Watersford, representing the Licensing Authority as responsible authority.
Emily Mitchell, Police Licensing Officer, and I'm the one that's brought about this review application today.
PC Goddard Lane, I'm one of the organisers of Operation Nebula.
Councillor sorry, I've been off with flu. Councillor Lynn Allen, led.
Thank you. I'd just like to explain the proceedings this morning. So we will start with our licensing officer who will present their report. The only questions that will be really relevant are any clarifications at this stage. We will then move over to the applicant and the applicant's representative, and you can give your submission. The applicant's the police in it, so we'll go over to PC Mitchell. We'll then go over to the responsible authorities in turn, and then we'll go over to the licence holder, so Mr Nagpal, you and your representative. There will be later on after that, there'll be a discussion where we can all have a debate and ask each other questions, and then you will be asked to leave the room where we will have a discussion to decide the decision of the review. You'll be invited back in, and then you'll be given the verbal answer as well as sent to you in writing. Okay. So we're going to start with our licensing officer. Could you present your report, please?
Thank you, Councillor. Good morning, everyone. You've all been provided with the full report and the supporting evidence, and therefore I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the salient points of the report. The purpose of today's hearing is to review the premises licence for the wine cellar at West Drayton, following receipt of an application made by the Metropolitan Police Service. The application relates to the failure to uphold the Protection of Children from Harm objective of the Licensing Act 2003. 2 test purchases in relation to age-related products, namely alcohol, were carried out at the premises as part of Operation Nebula. On both occasions, alcohol was sold to minors. Mr. Nangpal did not learn from the first test purchase and failed to put measures in place to prevent further breaches of the licensing objectives from taking place. Mr. Nangpal has made some minor improvements since the premises were visited on the 6th of December 2018 by the police and Hillingdon Council licensing officers, and he has paid the fixed penalty notice that was issued as a result of the first failed test purchase. However, he needs to take greater steps moving forward to fully satisfy licensing legislation. Taking into consideration paragraph 11.19 of the Section 182 guidance, I am recommending that the premises licence is suspended for a period not exceeding 3 months, and that additional conditions are imposed upon the premises licence in order that shortcomings can be rectified, and that going forward Mr. Nangpal operates at the standards expected of him as the premises licence holder and designated premises supervisor. I welcome all submissions today in order for the subcommittee to make the correct decision in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any matters that need clarification? Okay, we'll move on to the applicant. Thank you, PC Mitchell.
Good morning. The reason I felt the necessity for the premises to be brought before the committee was that following the police-led Operation Nebula, where over 236 premises were test purchased by cadets, 36 of those premises initially failed and they were issued with a penalty notice. Those 36 venues were revisited and only one failed a second time, and that was the premises of the wine cellar 36 Station Road, West Drayton. As agreed with the council under the Section 182 guidance, it basically states that should a venue serve alcohol to a minor within a 3-month period, that a review of the premises is the norm. It also goes on to state that the licensing authority should consider revocation. The 2 dates of the visit were the 30th of July 2018 and the 22nd of October 2018. The same male, Mr. Sandeep Singh Nangpal, was in charge of the premises on both occasions. However, he had not submitted the relevant paperwork to the council on the first occasion to reflect his involvement with the premises. The first operation took place on the 30th of July, where plainclothes officers with underage cadets entered the premises of Station Road. Cadets entered the store. They selected 4 cans of lager valued at £4.40, went up to the till. Alcohol was run through the till and placed into a black bag. The children were at no stage challenged regarding their age, and no identification was requested. The employee, they paid the employee £4.40 by handing over a £10 note, and the change was provided. The cadets left the store, handed the alcohol to a police officer. The employee on this occasion who had sold the alcohol to the cadets was then approached by the police and was issued a penalty notice for the offence. The cashier that served on this occasion was a male by the name of Mr. Pagat Nagpal. The penalty notice for £90 was issued to him, which I can confirm has now been paid. On the second visit, the 22nd of October, the same premises, this time with trading standards also present. cadets entered the premises, selected a bottle of wine to the value of £6.99. Children walked up to the till with a bottle of wine, asked a member of staff how much it cost. The staff member rang it through the till and placed it into the bag without any challenge or request for identification or proof of age. I conducted a compliance visit with the local licensing officer from Hillingdon Council. This was on the 6th of December. Myself and Ginny Mukherjee went to 36 Station Road. The designated premises supervisor at the time was Mr. Singh Nangpao. He was in the premises. It was shockingly apparent to us that he had absolutely no understanding of the licensing objectives, the law or legislation regarding selling alcohol. The shop also very noticeably had several different items of drug paraphernalia such as snack bags, cannabis grinders, smoking pipes and more of the above, which Mr. Nangpal admitted only one kind of client would purchase these items. Police will be requesting a 3-month suspension of the sale of alcohol along with other stringent conditions added to the premises licence. It is apparent Mr. Nangpal was not previously aware that he had to adhere to his premises licence and had no understanding of the regulations around the Licensing Act. So I would recommend that he could also prove to us that he understands this now and would be able to comply with any conditions that were put onto a licence should the committee not be minded to revoke his licence. Thank you.
Thank you, PC Mitchell. Just for clarification for people who are not sure what the Nebula programme was, PC Lane, could you please explain it to the committee this morning?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, Operation Nebula was set up to test purchase every licensed premises on the borough. As we said, 236 premises were visited. It was run by means of a police officer with 2 volunteer police cadets, both of which who would be under the age of 16 and a half. We would attend the premises. The young cadets would go into the premises, followed shortly after by a plainclothes police officer to act as a covering officer. They would select alcohol and make their way to the till to conduct the purchase. This would have the police officer in sight and hearing of them. The sale would take place. They would then leave the premises, followed by the police officer that was covering them. The alcohol that had been sold, along with the receipt, would be retrieved by the police. 2 police officers would then go back into the premises, identify themselves and confront the sale with the staff member at the time. And so that took place at 236 premises over a period of time last year, with 36 penalty notices being issued for the sale, with the one failing twice. And it was set up to try and combat child sexual exploitation and antisocial behaviour, knife crime, etc., by means of identifying that a lot of our child sexual exploitation was taking place in areas very close to licensed premises, and the youngsters were involved with alcohol. So we were trying to prevent that further by conducting the test purchases within those premises.
Thank you. We're going to move on to trading standards, please, and Mr. Yip Chung.
Trading standards took part in Operation Nebula on the 22nd of October. Sale took place to a 14-year-old cadet. During the test purchase operation, Trading Standards spoke to the owner, Mr. Nangpal, and asked him if he had a refusals book. He said that he did have a refusals book, but it was kept inside his cabinet, which was locked. He didn't have the key to produce it. A sales refusals book is necessary to show that the premises has been showing due diligence and that they're refusing sales and recording it. On the 24th of January, Mr. Nangpal was invited to attend a formal interview with Trading Standards to discuss the incident and under Section 146 of the Licensing Act, Defence of Supplying Alcohol to a person under 18. At the interview, Mr. Nangpal admitted that he authorised staff member, Pritpal Singh, to sell alcohol to the child. He had only met Mr. Singh that day at Gurdwara Sikh temple and invited him to the shop to show him around. The reason why Mr. Nangpal sold the alcohol was he saw the child holding a bottle of wine, and he asked Mr. Singh to go to the counter and put it in the bag. Mr. Singh asked Mr. Nangpal how much it cost, and Mr. Singh told him the price, and the sale took place. No checking of ID or intervention was made by either person. Mr. Nangpal said that he allowed the sale to take place because he thought the child was over the age, was over 18 by her height. The cadet is 5 foot 5 inches tall, but Mr. Nangpal is saying that he only saw the back of her and assumed that she was old enough by her height. He didn't physically look at her face or confront her about her age. At the interview, Mr. Nangpal was asked again if he had a refusals book. On this occasion, he said that he did have one, but he couldn't find it during the time that the sale took place. That was a bit odd because at the time of the sale took place, we asked him, "Do you have a refusals book?" He said, "Yes, I have it, but it's locked in the cupboard and I don't have the key." But now he's saying that he did have a refusals book. I asked Mr. Nangpal where he got the refusals book from. He said it was from Mr. Panchal personal licenses courses around May 2018 when he took over the shop. He did admit at interview that he hadn't used a refusals book and hadn't made any entries in it until he was later visited by the police and the licensing department in December 2018. He also mentioned that he only found the book whilst cleaning the shop in December last year. I'd like to refer to P.C. Mitchell's letter to Mr. Nangpal dated the 7th of December 2018. That's document EM4. Point 2 states, "Being the designated premises supervisor of the premises, you have not adhered to your premises license condition under Annex 2, requiring you to have 2 adults working at the premises after 1800 hours until the close of business every day." During the interview, I asked Mr. Nangpal how many people work in the shop. He answered by saying that only he works in the shop at the moment, and also on the 22nd of October when the sale took place, only he was working in the shop then as well. Given the facts of what's occurred and the fact that Mr. Nangpal authorised the sale without checking the age of the child and didn't use a refusals book until approached by the police and trading standards, believe that Mr. Nangpal is unable to exercise his responsibilities to avoid sales of alcohol and other age-restricted goods to children. Trading standards fully support the police review in this case.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Could you switch your microphone on? Thank you. Councillors, do you need any further clarification on that report? Councillor Stead. Councillor Stead, would you like to comment?
Refusals books generally are ones which come. They're not terrible. It's just perhaps Mr. Nangpal would elaborate on what the book would look like from personal licenses.
Sorry, if you can toggle off. Thank you. all communications has to be put to Chairwoman, and she will dictate how the questions are going to be asked. So right now what we're doing is just clarifying the evidence and then seeking for that. If there's any concern or if there's any more additional information that can be sought by the decision makers, that's the councillors, and myself. But I just want to establish the logbook. Is the logbook a condition of the licence?
I don't believe it is. Is it a condition of the licence? I don't believe it is a condition of the licence. It's just to show due diligence that the shop is taking precautions. I would go back. In answer to your question, trading standards have our own refusals book, which has a training log and also a refusals register contained within it. I haven't seen the one that Mr. Nangpao has been using, but I believe that it would be a similar book with entries to be made in it.
So, Mr. Chung, would you agree that it is a good recommendation to have one, but it's not actually a necessity?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Is there any further clarifications for the councillors? No? Okay, then we're going to move on to the responsible authorities. We have, I believe, Ginny and Stephanie Waterford. Who's making this submission? Stephanie, lovely, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, everybody. I've made this representation as the officer nominated to represent the licensing authority as responsible authority. The representation has been made in order to support police and also to bring to the committee's attention a number of other areas of non-compliance regarding this premises. These areas have been highlighted in Mrs Mukherjee's statement following visits to the premises in December last year. I fully support the police's recommendation for a 3-month suspension and the imposition of further conditions. Periods of suspension do serve as an opportunity for the licence holder to get their house in order and also make improvements to the premises and to staff training and general management of the premises. That's really all I wish to say, members. You've got the submissions made by myself and Mrs Mukherjee, and we're both here if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any clarifications, Councillor Allen?
I do have a question, though.
We'll do that in the discussion. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the licence holder, and it's up to you now to put your submission through. Thank you.
Okay, so it's Robert Jordan representing the licence holder. Obviously, there's been some shortcomings here, and I think the licence holder has recognised there's been some shortcomings. And how are we going to rectify this to save his licence? He is able to retake the APLH exam, and that can be done any Wednesday, so we can book him on, not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, to take the APLH exam level 2 award for personal licence holders. So that's a resit of that exam, because he must have passed that at some stage in the past to have got the personal licence, I presume. In addition to that, I did today contact Night Training, and they do the award for the Designated Premises Supervisor Award, which is sort of a bit more geared to the actual DPS rather than the Licensing Act itself. They assure me they can get him on the course by the end of next week, so latest 15th of March, and that is attendance at the site and a one-to-one training, and then I understand the exam comes at the end of that training period. So we think that will focus the licence holder on responsibilities. In addition, you'll have to excuse me for not sending this through to the licensing authorities, but I really came on board a bit late in the day. The licence holder had apparently another agent. Apparently there was a mix-up. The agent's actually gone on holiday, so there seems to be something that happened there. But whatever happened anyway, it's happened. So that's where we are. So we've got a staff training program which is quite comprehensive. I quite like to hand out the committee, but I don't know as I can. I think legal advice, we can't do it at all. No.
We can't, I'm afraid,
Okay.
sorry.
So I'll go through that a little bit in a minute, but it's quite comprehensive. I'm going to visit the... Sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate that you've recently been instructed. I think you mentioned it was Sunday yesterday that you was instructed, but the prejudice is if documents are circulated now, not everybody would have the opportunity to reflect and then make their representations. So it would be an unequal footing with the premises licensing holder above and then causing a disadvantage. But yes, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, I understand that. So I'm going to visit the shop Wednesday. Been licensed an agent for 12 years. I've also had 12 years experience of running off licences. Never any issues in my time. So used to training staff, used to compliance with conditions on licence. And I'll be going through the recommended conditions, should those recommended conditions be imposed, which are on Appendix 2. So I will go through every single one of them with the applicant and stress the importance of, conditions being not complied with does create a criminal offence. I think the licence holder is realising the steps that need to be taken. So there'll be the Challenge 25 policy, which I don't think there was at the time. Didn't seem to be, it wasn't a condition of the licence anyway, a Challenge 25 policy, and it wasn't a condition that there was a refusal register on the original licence. So I'll sit through training with him Wednesday and train any staff that he's got, and we'll go through all the staff and all the training, and we've got sheets that they can sign that they've been trained in the various areas. And that will be updated every 3 months, and I'll sit there with Mr. Singh and Sandeep and go through that, and we'll have an instant book in place by Wednesday, and I think you've got a refusal book now, and we will check the refusal book is we'll obtain a refusal book from Trading Standards, so that's the one that they request. I've reminded them about the 2 adult members of staff, the necessity because that's a condition. He can't operate without 2 adults there. Even if they're late, he would have to shut the shop, or for the staff sicknesses, he would have to really shut the shop because he cannot afford any more breaches. Spirits behind the counter, well, that's self-explanatory. We'll look at how this till is going to be fixed. You can buy things to screw them into the counter, and the lockable doors in place. I understand, and no drug paraphernalia can be sold. You'll also have a child sexual exploitation policy, which is required for licensing premises now. So staff will be gone through that, how to spot exploitation of children. And as you said, the courses to resit the APLH course and to undertake the DPS award by the end of next week. So the staff will sign that they've been trained, and I'll be there with him to make sure they have been trained, and we can do this on a 3-month basis. So we can, bearing in mind the actions he's taking and proposing to take, the committee might be minded to suspend the licence because that's the recommendations. We would ask that suspension wouldn't be necessary to be too long because all this could be in place within a couple of weeks. So we would financial consequences of the business would be pretty horrendous with a 3-month suspension, and bearing in mind these actions we're taking. So the training will go through everything, ID procedure, Challenge 25, how to use the ultraviolet light, because to check the ID you can put an ultraviolet light over the passports and over the driving licences, and that will highlight the fluorescent features. I can show him how to do that, and to obviously to focus on the people that are at the till, not to look at height. Height is irrelevant, to age. And use the Challenge 25 policy. So if they look under 25, they are asked for ID. And it'll go through these things, and we'll go through the licensing objectives. There's quite a bit on that, and how to avoid proxy sales, adults buying for children, which we all know about, and how to avoid that, and how to look out for children being exploited by adults who might be buying them alcohol. And
remind them of the penalties, remind them of unlimited fines, really, is what you've got to consider now. Fines can be unlimited for most licensing offences. And just go through that, proxy sales, what to look for on the passports, use of the ultraviolet light, not to serve to drunks and street drinkers, a section on that, because that can cause public nuisance, how to spot street drinkers or likely street drinkers, and then we go on to the how they can use the instant book and the refusal book. It's quite comprehensive, it goes on. I won't go on too much because we haven't sent it through, but tell the staff what the licensing hours are, train the staff on the conditions of the licence, and how to, that there's someone there to get a copy of the CCTV. I'm hoping this week to have confirmation in writing, because obviously I can't look at the CCTV, so I can't check the CCTV because I will be breaking data protection laws. So I need a letter from the CCTV company this week that it operates in accordance with the 30 days. So we need to get that from them this week. And I think with this and the extra training he's going to undertake, and also conflict management will come into that, how to avoid conflict when asking for ID. We feel that you know, he's realised that there's been, you know, it's not been up to scratch, and realises the seriousness of should the licence be suspended, not revoked, that any other, you know, that would be it if there's any other sort of breaches of conditions, etc. I think he's understanding now and can comply with the conditions and the new conditions, and with the additional training and ongoing training every 3 months, all staff to be trained before they're allowed on the till, and within 3 weeks of starting at the premises, any new staff to undertake the APLH exam, not to obtain the personal licence, but to take the exam, because it takes a while to get the personal licence, but we can send people on exams every Wednesday. So within 3 weeks of anybody starting, and any existing staff to be sent on this course within the next 3 weeks to take the exam. It's not a difficult exam to pass, to be honest, but that shows willingness. We just hope the licence, if it's suspended, is not suspended for too long. 3 months we think it's going to have quite... He's in this position, you know, he's in this position, but any suspension, we feel all these things can be rectified by the 15th of March, and all the training in place, and night training. I've spoken to them on the phone, and I've dealt with them before, so I've got no reason that they can't. They can send someone up from Brighton, he attends the premises and trains them that day, one-to-one. What more we can do? Obviously, the conditions that are proposed seem reasonable, and I'll be going through those with him Wednesday, and how he can comply with them, how we can make sure staff do. I've got some experience of this, and I've never had any staff let me down over a 10-year period, and I've employed something like 100, 200 staff. As long as you stress they're going to be fired, and they're going to be the ones that take the unlimited fine, they seem to realise a little bit that it's not a £90 fine. You no job. Amazing how that focuses the mind. But we just hope, you know, he doesn't get his licence revoked or suspended for too long a period. And that's it from us.
Thank you. Mr. Nangpal, would you like to add anything? Would you like to put in your own words at all?
I mean, I have made changes to the store already. Drug paraphilias, we've got rid of them already. CCTV footage, we have spoken to the person that will be done by the end of this week, 30 days period. Alcohol, 35% or more, is already behind the counters, nothing in front of it. Everything's, the alcohol that was 2 meters from the door, it's obviously 2 meters away from it now. We do use the refusals book now, as I know it's not necessary, it's good to use it. We started using it, and I've got all my staff trained as it is, and still we got Mr. Robert coming over, training them even more just to clarify it, what else needs to be done. Pretty much it, that's it. I have tried applying everything to make sure that the business is running as smoothly as possible. like for example, deliveries are not coming before 10 o'clock and after 6. It's coming in between those times when there's an extra staff there to handle that, so the business is going smoothly as it is, and there's no issues caused to public.
Thank you. So what we're going to do now is start the discussion where we can have an answer question session. All questions will go via myself and answers. I'd like to start first actually asking you, Mr. Nangpal, your representative you've given a very in-depth detail of the training that's going to happen. What I'd like to know is, you have had a licence since last year. It was transferred over last year. You were responsible then towards the community for selling alcohol with restrictions. You have conditions on your licence. I'd like, in your own words, for you to describe to me what that meant to you. These were young children that were sold alcohol, and obviously the situation that could then develop from that, as you've heard from the neighbourhood, from both the police officers here, has eventually a direct connection to your original sale. So I'd like to know, in your own words, how that happened in the first place.
No, definitely I agree that the alcohol that was served, it was from my branch, and obviously under my supervision. I wasn't at the premises at the first time, and even second time around I didn't do the sale myself. I just saw the lady from the back. I thought, you know what, it's early in the morning, kids are going to be at school, there's not going to be kids around. Because I was busy with the other person, which was the police officer, to direct him to something he had asked for, so I asked the person just to put it in the bag for him and serve him. I wasn't sure if I had seen the customer myself or the children. I would have definitely ID'd them, challenged them, and not made the sale. The first sale, again, I wasn't present at the premises. The employee before, he did not ask for him, and I've got rid of both. The second time it was just like a person I met, and he's like, I haven't got anyone. I asked him, come down to the shop and have a look, no problem. And even the first employee, I've got rid of it, so I've got a fresh employee that works after 6 o'clock with me at the shop, and he's trained already. I've told him that on the till, no matter what happens, I am standing on the till, you're not coming on the till. So the till is completely managed by me, and there is no way that any underage kids are going to be served onwards from me unless I've challenged them or they do look over age. If they haven't got ID, no matter, even if they're 20, 22, 23, I'm not serving them. There's no sale to be made unless they actually can show me some ID, and I can check the ID. So either a driving license, a passport, or any photo cards with a date of birth in it. I've got this light as well that can check if the ID is real, because you can make fake IDs. So everything's going to be checked like that.
Thank you. Now, I know Councillor Allen, you wanted to make a comment, please. Go ahead.
Firstly, can you tell me when and where you gained your original licence?
I gained my original licence doing this course from Mr. Pancho's licensee department, and when it was like a year ago.
Thank you. And how long did the training take to get that licence?
It was a day course. It was 1 day course on a Wednesday, from let's say 9 o'clock till about 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Thank you. Secondly, can you tell me, I think I've got an echo here, can you tell me why you didn't notify the council that you'd taken over the premises when you did?
We did. We transferred the name onto my name when it was done.
You notified the council straight away that you'd taken over the premises, you'd taken over the licence. Thank you.
Councillor, just one moment. Stephanie, would you like to comment on that at all?
Mr. Nagpal did apply for a transfer. However, the transfer wasn't applied for until August, and he's actually, we understand he actually took over the shop on the 1st of May 2018. So the transfer wasn't forthcoming until August. So.
like to just add on to that. You can get a personal license and not have it transferred. You can like keep it. I had kept it for about 6 months and then I transferred it onto the thing. So it took about 2 or 3 months just to transfer that onto the shop.
Right. Next question. We're told that your CCTV only runs for 14 days. Can I ask why you didn't check the CCTV when you took over? Because most authorities, as I understand, Ealing, Hounslow, all of them have the 30 days. So why was yours only running at 14 days?
So before you answer, Mr. Nagpal, could you just use the other microphone, as that seems to be a better one? Thank you.
That was a mistake I had made when I took over, that I should have actually checked if the CCTV footage actually lasts 30 days, which I haven't checked, and it was just, like, let's say about 3-4 months ago. No, actually, I found out when the licensee came over and they asked for the footage, and I was only able to show for 14 days.
Did you not feel that taking over the shop and the licence and everything that went with it, did you not feel that it was your duty to check, to make sure you were doing everything that you should be doing? The licence, notifying the council that you'd taken it over, the CCTV not working properly. Didn't you think you should familiarise yourself with that?
To be really honest, I had no idea. I mean, I wasn't aware that the CCTV footage has to be for 30 days. I actually thought it was for 14. I wasn't aware of that.
Councillor Allen, just put your microphone on, please.
I've got a picture in front of me here. Now, I understand that's the cigarette counter there, and it's open, and it should always be closed. Was that not part of your training?
PC Mitchell?
Sorry, I'd like to clarify that on his behalf. When I looked around the back of the counter, I lifted up the shutters, so they were shut when I went there. I lifted them up to see what was behind the counter, and they were broken, so I couldn't actually get them back down. So I don't know how he was selling cigarettes previously, but it was actually jammed. It was jammed up.
So therefore it wasn't working?
It wasn't working.
Thank you.
Clarifying that, we've got basically, there's a shutter which goes about 1 metre up, and there's one shelf that we don't cover with cigarettes, so when we put the shutter up, we don't go beyond that point so it can come back down. And PC Mitchell did ask me to put the shutter up. Well, she didn't ask me to it, she did it herself. She wasn't aware of which points that she shouldn't go up, and when she goes above that, it gets stuck. When it gets stuck, you have to use your hand, you have to pull it back from somewhere. Basically, I need another person so I can hold it that way, and I can pull it back down. So that's why it just got stuck, and I obviously got it clear now.
Yeah, I think it's been established that they were covered at the time of the visit of the licensing officer, and the licence holder hasn't exposed the cigarettes himself, and has a facility for covering it up. So at no stage has he not acted within the law on that, it would appear, on that. So just in his defence, these shutters are quite heavy, you know, and you have to, maybe you needed a bit of a yank because it had gone beyond a certain point, but he was complying with the legislation at that time of the visit. Just on that, I mean, there's other things obviously, but.
We've just been told by your representative that they can give you further training, and it's a piece of cake. I can't remember your exact words, but you said you said it would be quite easy to do and everything else. Well, are you the same company that gave him the last training? And if you are the same company, clearly something's gone amiss.
I had nothing to do with the original application for the licence, as far as I'm aware, and I've only been involved since yesterday in preparing some sort of training manuals for him. I've never had any problems that's come back to me from. There may well have been people who've had trouble that I have trained in the past. I can't say everybody's been exceptional, but my record is better than anybody's. It's better than any of the multiples in running off licences. I can only impart that onto that store.
Do you provide a different service to the service the gentleman got last time?
I provide my service, which is a good service, and it's 11 years.
No, I'm asking.
Well, I wouldn't provide the same training as that. My training would be different to anybody's, and their training would be different to mine. I'm not sure what training he's had in the beginning, so I wouldn't be able to comment. I can only say that my training is good.
Yes, if you could.
It's not just about training, it's about being mentally able to, come back to what's already happened. And I've seen what's already happened to my shop and where I'm at this position. And to get out of this position, it's important for me to, implement his training and actually use it properly rather than being careless like I was before. So that's the main thing I'd actually try to do, is actually implement it onto my business.
But I will just add that I don't think my training in itself, is the be-all and end-all. We're reinforcing it with retaking this APLH exam and the designated premises supervisor exam in addition. So we're reinforcing it. But,
Councillor Allen, do you have any further questions? No, not really. Okay, Councillor Stead?
So we've got it written down that if they see adults providing children with drink or something like that, or they see them talking to people outside, that's something you've got to stop straight away and report it to the police or Childline or 101. I mean, this is. Well, I thought that was generally part of the legislation now, that you've got to have one of these policies.
Thank you, Councillor Allen.
I'd like to come back on the council's licensing objectives. Can you tell me at this point what you know about how you deal with the children's part of the objectives?
Definitely I can. Children's, basically there's a Challenge 25 scheme which you have to challenge anyone that looks at under the age of 25. For example, if groups come in and groups want to purchase alcohol, and if one of them's 18 and other ones don't have IDs, you still can't serve them. There's again proxy sales, which kids ask adults outside the shop or just away from the shop to purchase them alcohol. For example, if a kid comes in and asks for, let's say 4 cans of Cellar and a lighter, and then you refuse it, and another adult comes and asks for the same thing, that's a proxy sale and you cannot serve him, because obviously the same thing and different customer asking is really rare. So that's what we've implemented to make sure any proxy sales doesn't happen, group sales, if everyone doesn't have ID, you can't serve them, Challenge 25, things like this.
And can you tell me, during the period that you've been operating, how many staff you have had in your store on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, it's 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Nagpal, on that comment, how many staff do you actually employ fully all the time?
Do you mean throughout the day? Throughout the day, it's me. Well, it's someone in the morning, and then me in the evening.
So you do realise that after 6 o'clock there should be 2 members of staff on your premises?
Yeah, I do realise that, and I've got a staff from 6 o'clock onwards. So I open the mornings, and then I'm throughout the day basically, and then that staff comes at 6 o'clock onwards. Well, he comes at 5:30 onwards, so I give that half an hour line, just in case he's not here. So he has a half an hour, so he can be late. Even if he's late, he's not no later than 6 o'clock. So he's there by 6 o'clock, and I'm not breaching the conditions that are applied.
And how are you going to maintain that when they have a time off or they need to be away?
when they have a time off, I've got my cousin, which I've asked him if he can cover me 2 days a week, and he's agreed to do that. He'd be coming from morning till closure, so he'll be doing the full day, and I'll be coming from 3 o'clock onwards, so there'll be 2 people in the shop throughout the whole day, basically.
And can you confirm, are they all then going to be trained?
They're all going to be trained personally by myself, and then I'm going to ask Mr. Robert Jordan to pop down. For example, any new staff I have, firstly I'm going to train them myself, and then I'm going to ask a licensee or a training thing to come down and actually train them properly as well. So I'm going to ask Mr. Robert Jordan to come down and train every other staff that I have, to train them, even on this Wednesday when he will pop down. It will be me, myself and my cousin that will be there at present at that day, so Mr. Robert can train all 3 of us. It's not just them 2, it's me as well that needs to be trained. So all 3 of us are going to be trained on that day.
Councillor Allen.
Can you tell me when you first looked at the licensing conditions of the shop you've taken over?
The licensing conditions I briefly read when I took over in May. I didn't get the papers till I think September-ish, so I just read that and it just went out of my brain.
So you didn't think they were that important that you should really look at them closely?
To be honest, the licensing conditions didn't have anything specific. It was just not to serve underage, and locked doors, which I already had, stuff like cameras. It was there. I didn't know it was the 30 days. Apart from that, it was nothing specific that I actually needed to see. Obviously, I've seen that now that what's happened. I've actually noticed the licensees, the difference is which I thought and what I now. So I have implemented that already.
Mr. Nagpal, just to use your words there was nothing specific apart from not selling to underage children, which is why we're here this morning. I was actually going to go on to that point. PC Mitchell and PC Lane, in your own opinion, the Nebula operation and the wine cellar being the only shop that ended up committing the offence twice, in your opinion, is that normal procedure? Do you normally see that all the time? Is it quite shocking? How would you describe it?
This is the first instance that we've run an Operation Nebula, and the schools team put this together. They did it over the summer holidays and half term, so every child that entered any premises was done while they were all off school. It is shocking. It's shocking for a few facts. I've got a few health statistics here, if that's all right. Monitored against other London boroughs, Hillingdon currently has higher than any other number of boroughs of young people being put into A&E for drink and drug-related issues. Children are presenting to A&E for other things such as drug-related crimes or domestic violence, and alcohol could be the secondary reason for them going into A&E. Cost of a young person, psychological or physical harm to the services is about £9,000 per child. The representative for 36 Station Road has alluded to CSE policies. I believe they're probably related to other boroughs because it's not something we have in place here. But this is our way of trying to tackle the problem, and certainly it's a punitive deterrence on this occasion because it's not something we want to be seeing any more of.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Allen.
Can you tell me what time these incidents took place?
11 o'clock, roughly.
Both of them?
Yeah.
It would have taken place between 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock. We can find the exact times. 11:50 and 10:48 on the second.
Okay. Now, are there any further questions or clarifications needed at this stage? No? Okay, so what we're going to do now is have our closing remarks, and my sheet. We will start with the licence holder first.
Well, I think we've said more or less all we could say, so we won't go on and on about it, but going to receive the additional training, as I said, and he realises that there can't be any further breaches of licensing conditions. I mean, I've made that clear to him that it's just can't be any more breaches whatsoever of any degree. And we just hope the committee can see that he is making steps forward. And as I said, most of these things can be in place, including the APL, the Designated Premises Supervisor Level 2 award, by the 15th of March. So we hope any suspension would be a very minimal suspension, as everything can be put in place within the 21-day period before any suspension takes place. So before any suspension takes place, you know, he's assuring you he's going to get everything up to spec. We can't really say any more. Just hope the committee don't see the need to suspend it for too long or revoke the licence. As you say, it will be in place, so any suspension doesn't need to be of any real length of time, but they may take a different view as to what's gone on. I can understand, you know, your position. But.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Nothing further from me, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chung?
Only that trading standards will be making a visit to Mr. Nangpal's shop to give him the trading standards book, so he can record any refusals that he makes to children, whether it's tobacco or alcohol. And there's also a training log in there which he can use for his employees to show that he's given them the training. No further points to add.
Thank you. Ms. King?
Nothing further to add, Councillor. Thank you.
PC Mitchell, would you like to add your comments?
I have requested a 3-month suspension because that's the maximum penalty that I could have requested for on a suspension. Had it been longer, I probably would have requested longer. I think the training and everything that's been offered to the applicant from the representative who's known him for 24 hours seems to be quite a lot of training, and I think in this case 3 months would give the person from 36 Station Road the opportunity to get all the relevant training in place. And as I said earlier, the punitive deterrence is something that I'm keen to adhere to on this occasion.
Thank you, PC Mitchell. I'd just like to just clear that I know you use the term penalty, but we would really use it as a time for him to, I think the term was used earlier, get his house in order and forms of training. Okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So what we're going to do now is we are going to now in private deliberate, myself, my legal team and our councillors. So if I could ask you all to take your belongings and please step outside, and once we've come to a decision we'll call you all back in. Thank you.